Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a raid modded BDU that I made. So this thing right here. And keep in mind, I did not know how to sew before doing this, and I still don't know how to sew afterwards, but it's still done. So some of you might be wondering what raid mod is, and it's a modification that Special Forces would do to their clothing when they just had BDUs like this. Way back in the day, we're talking early GWAT. They would just sew it up to where they needed it to be to work better under body armor, and I'll show you specifically some of the things that they would do once I get into it. And keep in mind, this is a very simple version of raid mod. It can get pretty complex. But yeah, and I decided to do this not out of any practical sense, just because I thought it looked cool. I like old gen gear. I like more of that GWAT stuff, yada yada yada. So I did this. So what I did to make this raid modded is I took the big pockets on the bottom of this BDU, and I put them at a 90-degree angle inward on my chest. So these are the big pockets. I took the small pockets up here, and I tilted them, I put them on my shoulder, which was one of the most complicated things I've ever had to do. It sucked, but yeah. So when you're wearing your kit and body armor, you can reach in here and grab stuff easier. And I unfortunately had to sew a flap on these on backwards because my sewing machine could only handle one layer of fabric rather than the two that are sewn together up here. So there's that. But it still works, still buttons, it's just a little bit more difficult. But yeah, so that is the modifications I did to it. A lot of people would put Velcro on all of the stuff on the inside for the closure, which would make it a lot easier. On the outside for patches, I did not have any Velcro, so I did not end up doing that. I probably would have at least attempted it if I did have Velcro, but you know, I didn't. So, and I'm going to show you how this works with body armor and your full kit. Because if you've ever worn an actual BDU underneath a carrier gear, you realize pretty quickly that it kind of sucks. It is not fun to wear. But you do some very simple modifications. Let me get my helmet real quick. Your kit, it'll make it a lot more comfortable, make it work a lot better, and it'll make it a lot more effective. So rather than having the stupid pockets sticking out down here, and if you wear a battle belt, that'll really interfere with it. I used to wear a belt, I don't anymore. But yeah, so I don't have pockets down here bumping around into anything. I got pockets on my sleeves, so if I have stuff I really need to access, probably like pens or mission essential things, maps, maybe even put a tourniquet in there. You can have that on your shoulder. And if I really need to get into pockets on my chest, I can reach in underneath my plates and access them. They'll just be a little squished and tight, so there's that. So yeah. Do I think raid mod is better than a combat shirt? It depends on what you mean by better. In overall, like, effectiveness, if raid mod is trying to be a combat shirt, I don't think it is more effective in its own game. However, if I am going to be in the woods, I honestly would rather prefer to have raid mod because it keeps the insects off, just having the actual, you know, like field shirt fabric underneath of it. And it's not going to catch and get torn up as much. No, because I've worn combat shirts out here, and every now and then I'll find like a little small hole in it from, you know, some puncture or something, and I don't really want to have to rip all my crap just doing what it needs to be doing. So, you know, there are some benefits to this. And another benefit to it is if you are broke, trust me, I know the feeling, and you cannot afford a combat shirt, or at least a decent combat shirt. I bought, I think this particular BDU was, I think it was $5 at a flea market. And it costs nothing except maybe $1 worth of thread, if that, just to sew it up. So, and it makes it so much better, so much more effective. So if you don't have the money and you don't want to buy an actual combat shirt, raid mod is your friend. It will help, trust me. And so, yeah, that's raid mod for you. That's Ransom Tron out.